Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger has become the most high-profile election official in America over the past 2 years after upholding the 2020 election results in his state amid threats from Donald Trump and others. And now on the flip side, he's infuriating the left with his support for a controversial new law which has made sweeping reforms to elections in Georgia. Raffensperger has made himself a pariah to both sides' extremes, which is where you typically want the election umpire to be. He has not spoken out since his testimony before the January 6th committee, so we're thrilled to welcome him to the show tonight to cover a variety of topics. Secretary Raffensperger, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good evening.
All right, I know you want to talk about the big federal court victory for the Georgia election law, which we will get to in a minute. But first, I want to ask you about your recent testimony before the January 6th committee. Many on the left have held this committee's work up as a hugely important fact-finding mission about how January 6th happened. Many on the right have said it's just a partisan exercise, no cross-examination or competing views on the committee. How seriously do you think the country should be taking these hearings?
Well, that's for each individual American to decide, but I was subpoenaed and I answered the questions as they were presented to me when I showed up for that committee hearing.
But you did, when Fox News Channel, for example, chose not to air a number of the January 6th hearings, you were critical of that decision. Why?
I think it's helpful for all Americans to hear the information and then they can make their own decisions. And I think that would be actually healing for our own Republican Party. We need, at the end of the day, if you look at what we're facing right now, is 9% inflation, supply chain shortages, and a lot of other disruptions in the economy. The stock market's down 21%. So coming up to the next election as a Republican, I want to see us win. I want to see us win big.
And how do you think watching the committee hearings can help in that effort?
I think our party needs to be unified, because unified parties are what win elections. As Abraham Lincoln said, a divided house cannot stand. And so when you're unified around a common vision, common purpose, that's going to be good for all Republicans up and down the line.
And so people say to you, should I be watching the hearings? The answer then is yes.
Yeah, I've watched it, and I participated. And people ask me questions, and I shared the simple fact of what happened in Georgia in 2020 is that 28,000 Georgians skipped the presidential race. They didn't vote for anyone, and yet they voted down ballot. And our Republican congressman got 33,000 more votes collectively than President Trump did. And that's why President Trump came up short.
I want to play a piece of sound from you detailing some of the threats that were made to your family as a result of this. Let's listen.
After the election, my cell phone was doxxed, and so I was getting text all over the country, and then eventually my wife started getting the text, and hers typically came in as sexualized texts, which were disgusting. They started going after her, I think, just to probably put pressure on me. Why don't you just quit, walk away? And then some people broke into my daughter-in-law's home, and my son has passed, and she's a widow and has 2 kids, and so we're very concerned about her safety also.
I mean, this is crazy. Can you believe that this is happening to you?
It's where we are right now, and I really have been very clear that I think our way back as all Americans is really getting back, leaning into integrity, character, civil discourse, and quoting Ronald Reagan in my book, Integrity Counts, kindness. I think kindness goes a long way, but I think we need to get back to civil discourse. So whatever we say in the public space is respectful. Even though we don't agree with people's policies, let's have honest discussions about that and do it respectfully.
I completely agree. Look, that's sort of the mission of this show, right? I mean, the mission of my show is very much that, is to have a civil discourse. I'll sometimes have a guest on and say, hey, tell me why I'm wrong, etc. And then we can talk about it.
No, the numbers are the numbers. The numbers don't lie. We had many allegations, and we investigated every single one of them. We didn't have any votes to find. We had to continue to look. We investigated, like I just shared the numbers with you. There were no votes to find. That was an accurate count that had been certified. And as our general counsel said, there was no shredding of ballots.
Back now with the man you saw there, Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Again, thank you for being with us. Appreciate it. So what do you make of the grand jury investigation in Fulton County, Georgia, into the efforts to overturn the election? Trump allies Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, even Lindsey Graham were just subpoenaed. Important?
Well, I was subpoenaed and I testified, and I assume that they'll do the same thing.
And do you think it's an important investigation based on what you heard?
Well, I'm a structural engineer, and so I'll let the lawyers do what they do, and my job is to make sure that we have fair and honest elections in Georgia, so I stay in my lane.
All right, so let me ask you this. In 2024, if it's Trump versus Biden, would you vote for Trump again?
Well, I've been very clear that I don't endorse anyone. In fact, sometimes that gets me in hot water. But as your secretary, as Georgia's Secretary of State, I don't endorse, because at the end of the day, I want everyone to have high confidence that I didn't put my thumb on the scale one way or the other, and so I'll continue to hold to that position.
All right, so let's assume for a minute that neither Trump or Biden run. Neither of them are running. And someone asks you, who would you vote for, Trump or Biden? And neither of them are running, so now you don't have to put your thumb on any scales. Who would you support?
I don't know if I really understood that question, if that's what's on the ballot. So, like I said, as Secretary of State, we don't endorse, and I think that's the appropriate policy for me to take.
But you did announce, did you not, after the last election, that you did vote for Donald Trump?
Yeah, it was post-election, but I just wanted people to understand that, I was one of the earliest supporters for President Trump when I was in the State House of Representatives. People said I was the second supporter in the State House. And so I understood he came from a construction background. I understand he had strong, contractor language, very strong, person. I got that. And I supported him in 2016 and voted for him in 2020. I just want people to understand that my job was to make sure that we had fair and honest elections, and every allegation that was made, we checked it out. There weren't 10,000 dead people, there was only 4. There weren't thousands of felons, there was less than 74, things like that. Every single allegation we checked out, so that when we certified the race, we could say we verified and we checked out every single allegation. And we'll continue to do that. Anything that we hear or find, we open up an investigation and we do prosecute in the state of Georgia. In fact, in my 4 years of office, I've prosecuted more people for election violations than any other Secretary of State in our history.
I want to play a piece of the infamous phone call that occurred, and then I want to ask you a question about it. Let's listen.
Why wouldn't you want to find the right answer, Brad, instead of keep saying that the numbers are right? So look, can you get together tomorrow? And Brad, we just want the truth. It's simple. And everyone's going to look very good if the truth comes out. It's okay. It takes a little while, but let the truth come out. And the real truth is I won by 400,000 votes, at least. So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
After having voted for Donald Trump, after that phone call, did it change your impression of him?
No, I understood. Really, we had had 60 days of disinformation, misinformation, and his position was pretty much set in stone. And what I was hoping maybe at some level I could just, calmly, rationally share with him that no, there weren't thousands of dead people, every allegation. And I made those points, and I wanted to do that respectfully, but I made those points in my phone call with President Trump.
But he hasn't been so respectful about you in speaking publicly.
Well, Peter Drucker has a management book called Managing Oneself, and that's who I work on every day. I'm managing myself, and that keeps me pretty darn busy.
What's it like to be, though, a Republican, despised by so many in the sort of Trump wing of the party? It didn't keep you from winning your primary race recently, but how odd of a position is it to have been a guy who rooted for Donald Trump, voted for Donald Trump, and have him and so many of his allies and fans treat you like the enemy?
Well, I just believe that most people are good, and I'm really grateful that I got 52% in the Republican primary, and the 48% that I haven't gotten, I'm just an optimist, and I just haven't talked to them yet. So I'll continue to go out to local county GOP meetings, business chambers, Rotary, Kiwanis, and just really, share the story and then take their questions. I went up to North Georgia Tea Party lunch, and I talked for about 15 minutes, and then I took probably questions for 40 to 50 minutes. I wanted everyone to ask their questions, then I had the answers for them. I just believe in being respectful to my fellow, Georgians and my fellow Americans. I believe that most people are good. And if people have been, fed, constant streams of misinformation, it's not that they're, anything wrong with them. It's just that they don't have the knowledge. And so that's why I try and give them information. That's why I wrote that 10-page letter to Congress. It's out there on sos.ga.gov. And then I also wrote a book, Integrity Counts, to set the record straight. And I stand by my record, and I could put my hand on the Bible whenever I speak before a January 6th committee or any other place. Here's what the facts are. And I know my side is disappointed. I get that. But at the end of the day, that's why I go out and I talk to people.
Was there anything that you didn't get a chance to say that you wished you'd been asked about under oath in front of the January 6th committee?
No, I think, I just kept it to the facts, and I think I said what had to be said, and nothing more, nothing less.
Sometimes I've just got to imagine being you and thinking, this is crazy, what's happening around me. All of the insanity, considering, what your political position are and who you voted for. There's just got to be sometimes you wake up and you say, how did I become that guy that the people who share my views on so many things view as the enemy?
Well, you have to understand that when I took office back in January 2019, the first thing we had was 9 lawsuits from Stacey Abrams and all of her organizations on her stolen election claims. So really having that backdrop, that really positioned us to be in good shape with new verifiable paper ballots so we could do a 100% hand recount. And whenever allegations were made, we could push back on it. And we have some of the best election lawyers in the country, actually, because we were pushing back from Stacey Abrams' stolen election claims. Then we got it from the right side. Stolen election claims. We just responded back, with the facts. We do that respectfully, and we do win when it comes to court.
You think they're equal, the 2 election claims?
Well, one didn't have the same number of Twitter followers, and obviously the positional power of a president, obviously, it's the most powerful position, not just in our country, in the entire world. Right. So I get that. So there's a degree, but really neither one were based on facts. And so that's why we push back, and we make sure that people have the facts.
Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, thank you so much for taking the time to join me on the program tonight. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.